tonight. We got a great speaking of great experiences, we have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to break down the NFL action over the weekend, some really, really good games in the National Football League. We'll pregame the great game tonight between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish as the Buckeyes are out on the field. Now, who were the winners and the losers of the college football playoff bracket? We're not talking about on the field. We're talking about behind the scenes. Nick Saban does not like NIL the way it is. Do we? We'll debate. We'll buy or sell on Cooper Flag. And is Auburn the best team in the country? We'll talk about that. We'll take your phone calls, 402-951-1620. Don't forget to follow the show at After Hours 1620 on Twitter. Jimmy Allen, John Schreiner, Bodie Heidemann, and Dan Campinen with you here tonight. The NFL was in full swing this weekend. Favorite game from the weekend, unbiased opinion.
Unbiased opinion, Commanders-Lions. Biased opinion, Commanders-Lions.
Yeah, it was by far the best game. This has the opportunity to be the answer to the AFC's version of Bills Chiefs, is Commanders Lions. I know Ben Johnson's on his way out, and we're going to talk about that later in the show. But with those two offenses, those two coaches, the personalities involved in the game, I think that could start to become the premier matchup in the NFC.
Yeah, I would be fine by me
sure.
If it does. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think the Commanders still have to build a defense. Let's be honest. If Detroit hadn't had 87% of their defense on injured reserve,
right, different game,
big time. It finally caught up with.
With Detroit. That being said, you got to play the game on the field, right? And,
True.
And attrition is a part of football.
Yep.
I honestly think I've been trying to breathe this into life into you in the offseason, but I really thought that they hired the right GM in Washington. They've clearly got the right head coach. He's a game away from going to another Super Bowl as a head coach. I think he's got his quarterback. I think the pillars in Washington are set, and I think they're going to be good for a long time.
You got a young quarterback. You got a young running back, a fairly young receiving core. And even the defense is not, outside of Bobby Wagner, of course, the defense is fairly young.
Yeah.
The building blocks are in place, and I think that,
it might be a little bit to keep Bobby Wagner from stopping about thinking of retirement as well, though, because
I don't. You can't worry about that.
Sure. No, I mean, for him personally.
He's given more than I ever thought Washington would get out of him.
I'm not going to lie. When I found out he was going to Washington, I went, oh, that sucks. I was glad to see him out of the NFC North,
honestly,
or out of the NFC West, excuse me. But
even by the most optimistic, aggressive, super fan standards, this rebuild is a year, probably two ahead of schedule.
But that's what happens when you draft the right quarterback, right?
And what happens when you have the right coach and ownership.
Yeah, that helps too. Eagles, Rams this weekend, probably the second best game in my opinion. But the snow did not help anybody in that game. Listen, I mean, nobody's going to doubt Matthew Stafford's talent and ability. I was really surprised how much he was able to kind of hold it together with how good that defense was playing in the elements. I know he's Matthew Stafford. I know he's a former number 1 overall pick. I know he's got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. But I was just kind of waiting for that. He's kind of starting to regress in his age moment. Yeah. It just never came. And that throw to Nacua on the side,
dude,
where he just dropped it on his shoulder with maybe a half a centimeter of room for error margin was incredible. I'm like, oh yeah, he's still Matthew Stafford.
That was
that was a top 5 best throw I've ever seen.
That was pure football erotica right there.
Yeah.
That should be censored on the nightly news. That's how amazing that was.
Rams score that drive. It goes down as easily one of the best catches and throws.
And honestly, I thought they were going to do it too.
100%.
I was like, this is it. This game was over.
I
5
felt
minutes
they were
ago.
going to come back and win.
Yeah,
it just had that feel.
But listen, as good as Saquon Barkley is, and listen, they've got some questions at quarterback now too, because Jalen Hurts' knee is a little banged up, and that's going to lead to my trash take tonight. Later tonight, we'll get into that. But that defense, as good as that offensive line is, as good as AJ Brown is, as good as Saquon Barkley is, that defense is the showcase in Philadelphia.
Yeah, which is why I was really hoping that the Rams would come back and win that game.
Yeah.
I would feel much better about Washington's chances against the Rams than I do against the Eagles, even though that Week 16 comeback against the Eagles for Washington was incredible and silly and probably should never have happened, but did.
A couple of those for Washington this year.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Chicago.
But boy, NFC least to no longer, right?
Yeah, I mean, You could make the argument the next season that if the Cowboys can figure it out and make a
They
splash
can't.
higher,
No, they can't.
They won't.
They won't.
probably the best division in football, even with the Giants still being the Giants. We haven't even talked about Ravens Bills yet. And
Josh Allen's that dude.
He is, but like Lamar Jackson puts together the drive of his career. If Mark Andrews catches that 2-point conversion, they go on to win that game. The discussion about playoff Lamar and he can't do it on the biggest. He threw 3 passes over 20 yards in that last drive, and I get the thought by John Harbaugh. Like, we're gonna run sprint out here. We're gonna make him think we're putting the ball in Lamar's hands because that's what I would do. But that was the right play call. Like, I know Mark Andrews dropped the ball, but it could not have been a better throw. And in my opinion, the best drive of Lamar Jackson's career.
It was good. I mean, I thought that the game was over. I thought that they were toast, especially when Buffalo's got the ball inside the 2, and you've got Josh Allen with the ball in his hands
twice,
and they stop him twice. But yeah, that drive was silly. Very, very good stuff. It's just unfortunate because like Mark Andrews is such a good player. He's a tremendous tight end,
and he's going to get all the highlights or all the headlines. Excuse me. That Isaiah Likely catch for the touchdown, though. What a throw and grab, man! I was sliding in the snow, going down with a guy on top of you, and he was able to haul it in. What a snag!
And I've heard that narrative about playoff Lamar, and look, it's coming up in my trash takes, so
okay.
I'm going to save my thoughts about that there. My big concern is, like, that's how the season ends for Mark Andrews. Like, I really like Mark Andrews as a tight end. I think he's
overcome
good.
A lot in his career, too.
But, man, that is a tough spot.
3 shoulder surgeries, 1 while he was at Oklahoma, the ankle. Ton of problems.
Drop that pass in that situation when it's right on you.
It wasn't even that. I mean, he had the fumble in the 2 drives prior to that looked exactly like the Zay Flowers fumble from a year ago in the AFC Championship game. So, I mean, you probably have some PTSD if you're a Ravens fan watching that happen.
Let's also not forget that every time Mark Andrews goes off the field, he's sticking a pin in his butt to make sure that his blood sugar level is appropriate for being able to be a top-tier elite athlete. That's nothing to scoff your nose at. For
sure. And it's probably why he's had some of the injuries that he's had pile up over the years, too. Chiefs, Texans. Did people bury Houston way too early? Because I was adamant 2 weeks ago. I said I thought they would find a way to get to this game, and they did. D'Amico Ryans is that dude as a head coach.
He's very good.
Yeah, I don't even think it's debatable that he's probably top 10, top 8, top 5, somewhere in that range in the NFL at head coaching, in my opinion. I know CJ Stroud and the offense didn't really perform up to snuff of the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, but I was still highly impressed with how well he was able to manage that situation against that defense.
Houston's a curious case, man, because they overperformed so much last year. Right? They were so far ahead of schedule, and CJ Stroud was unreal as a rookie. Like, honestly, never seen a rookie quarterback play at that level before. Like, the league hasn't. And then this year, you always expect like a year older, a year better. You take the next step, and they just kind of held serve. They were kind of the same team again. And I think that was disappointing to a lot of people. But if you look at where Houston has been, where that franchise has come from, man, I think you've got to have a little longer lens to look back and say, like, okay, that's an incredible turnaround for a franchise that was in the absolute toilet a few years ago.
I think a lot of the reason people look at Houston that way this year is because of how down the AFC South was, though.
Sure.
But, I mean, they almost beat they probably should have beat the Lions earlier in the year, and they have that loss to the Jets and to the Titans. Neither one of those looked great. But they played so many close games that I think a lot of people look at that as a negative connotation all the way around. But, like, winning in the NFL is difficult. I don't care who you play or what division you play in.
Ask the Bengals.
And right, that's exactly where I was going with this. But I don't care. I don't care what division you play in or who you have to play week in and week out. If you can win 10 games and win your division, I think that says a lot. I mean, I don't think anybody's looking at the Packers season as a disappointment, right, Dan?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't think there's I feel like a lot of people that had expectations for Houston this year look at this season as a disappointment. I don't think you can do that.
No, you certainly shouldn't. The AFC is brutal, man. I mean, just
the quarterbacks in that division alone
in the AFC is silly. Like, and they're all fairly young. It's not like these are all guys who are, on the downslope. They're all
Aaron
still,
Rodgers would like a word.
They're all still sort of on the upswing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not on the backside of Patrick Mahomes yet. We're not on the downswing for Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. All those guys are still going to be around. And then you toss in CJ Stroud, who, by the way, just his second year in the league.
Pretty good. How do you feel about the Chiefs?
I just don't trust them.
I don't either, man.
Either.
It's crazy to say when they're 15. We'll call it 15-1 because that last game was put up the white flag and just let football happen on the season, and they still dominated that game. They won by honestly, 9 points.
Like, here's the thing: I don't think the team is very good as a whole. I honestly don't think they're that good.
But they've got two pretty key components.
They have Patrick Mahomes and they have Andy Reid, and you have to commend Andy Reid and that staff for coaching that team the way that they have and winning in the tight games, finding a way in late game situations to come away with victories. Because I don't think this is it's not all that good of a team. You put a different head coach at the helm for this team.
I agree. Even with Mahomes,
they're a 6 seed.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. They probably don't win their division.
Is Andy Reid Bizarro World Scott Frost?
Is Andy Reid Bizarro?
All they do is win one score games. That's all they do. They just win one score games.
He's the mathematical inverse of Scott Frost.
Yeah. Championships are set. Commanders at Eagles, Bills at Chefs. Better game is going to be
Bills Chiefs.
Man, I think it's going to be Commanders Eagles. I really do, because I honestly, hot take, I think the Bills are going to win by double digits at Arrowhead.
I mean, they already stomped the Chiefs once this season.
I know, but it's the playoffs. It's Arrowhead. It's Andy Reid. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's December. I guess it's January now. But
I think the Bills are going to win too. And look, I told you at the start of the playoffs, I thought the Bills would be the AFC Super Bowl representative. I told you at the start of the season, I thought the Bills were going to win the Super Bowl. But in the NFC, like, I think the Commanders can win. I just don't know if they will. Jaden Daniels, not worried about him. He is the coolest cucumber on the block, man.
Doesn't seem rattled by a whole lot.
Just doesn't get fazed by anything. The trouble is that defense. Washington's defense is bad. They can't stop the run.
They got a couple turnovers though.
Right. But they can't stop the run, and Saquon Barkley plays for the other team. This could be very bad. And maybe I'm just a wounded Commanders fan who's been beaten down by decades of awful football. But I don't know. I don't see it happening.
They split the series earlier in the season, though. And I think that does a huge amount for Washington's confidence walking into this game.
It should.
Now, they won the game in D.C., lost the game in Philadelphia, this one famously in Philly. I don't know if that necessarily helps or hurts the situation, but the fact that you could go, hey, listen, we got these guys once, and it's the most recent time. Why not do it again?
Yeah. I mean, how many Duracell batteries will the Philly fans have on hand?
900. Super Bowl prediction.
Bills, Eagles.
Yeah, I think it's Philly. I think it's Philly and Buffalo as well. Dan?
I don't know. After watching that game against the Lions, I'm a bit convinced that it's going to be Commanders Bills.
Ooh. I think Commanders Bills is the most fun option, by the way.
I think the Chiefs are going to somehow make it. I don't want them to.
Why wouldn't they, right?
I just feel like they're going to somehow find a way. They won the special teams game against the Texans. That's honestly kind of how they won that game. And I feel like they'll find a way. And then I think Eagles are just going to run all over. I have PTSD now of Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to run all over the Commanders.
And Travis Kelce got the memo that the season started too, by the way.
I was telling you before the show, my dream scenario is that it's Chiefs Commanders, the opposite of what I think will happen. But it's Chiefs Commanders, and the Commanders just absolutely stomp the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Yeah. Like record-setting offensive performance against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
It's going to, like, if you somehow get Washington Buffalo, the
rematch of the last time Washington was in the Super Bowl.
The over might be like 93.5. and it might hit. Hey, this is the After Hours Lounge. We're brought to you by Bellevue University. If you missed the opening segment tonight, want to get our thoughts on the weekend that was in the NFL, check it out at SoundCloud.com/After Hours 1620. It was brought to you by Allo Fiber. You stuck with old internet, you're slowing down, and starting to buffer when you're playing your video games, or maybe Netflix isn't working the way it used to. Check out Allo Fiber. They're going to come out. They're going to bury the line in your yard. You don't have to worry about the elements in Nebraska messing up your internet connection or your TV. They're going to make sure that the line is directly to your house It is fiber. It's fast. I have 5 gig to my house. You can get 5 gig to your house with Allo Fiber tonight. Check out allofiber.com tonight. We'll be right back. Predicting the national championship game. It's about to kick off here in just a few minutes here on 1620 Zone.
Hey, everybody. John Schreiner here for Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. You know what? It's the new year, and that means there's new styles coming in, and Jerry Ryan's got to make room for them. That's why they're having a huge clearance sale. It's going on right now at 78th and Dodge. You need to get yourself there. 50 to 75% off suits and sport coats, polos, shirts, and sweaters, 25 to 50% off. Jackets. You need a jacket? It's cold out there. I don't know if you know this, but it's minus 25 wind chill right now. If you need a jacket, get to Jerry Ryan, 25% off. Do not go through this winter without a quality, reliable jacket that's going to make you look better than you did yesterday. Get yourself over there. It goes beyond just what you can find on the shelf. You can order, make your special orders, get your fitting. Monier the tailor, best in the business. Get yourself over there. Get the best from Johnny O, Peter Millar, Cutter and Buck, all in your Husker and Jays gear. 78th and Dodge. See John, Dan, Jake, Deanne, and Monier the tailor. Jerry Ryan, dressing them all for over 50 years.
6:22 on a national title Monday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Bellevue University. Head over to BUBruins.com and keep up to date on all the championship action. You don't have access to your computer, download to your smartphone, download the BU Bruins app tonight. The national championship game is just a few minutes away between Notre Dame and our friends from Ohio, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Hats off to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium before we get started, though. They're putting fans first tonight. $2 sodas, $2 pretzels, $2 sodas, and $2 popcorns. $3 hot dogs, $3 fries, $5 beers and burgers. Go get drunk on Bourbon Street and have yourself a burger.
Dude, that's the way the Falcons do it. And this is their stadium, obviously, but it's great. I think it's fantastic.
Because tickets are like $4,000, so you might as well save some money at the concession stands. Neither team got a bye in these playoffs. Ohio State beats Tennessee by 25. They beat Oregon by 20. They beat Texas by 14. The Irish beat Indiana by 10, Georgia by 13, and Penn State by 3. Ohio State wins if what happens?
Ohio State wins if Notre Dame turns the ball over 2 times.
I think Ohio State wins if they don't put the game in a phone booth. I think it is going to be in Notre Dame's best interest to run between the tackles, run as much clock as you can, get Ohio State's offense out of sync, and try to keep the fight as close as possible. With that being said, Ohio State's offensive weapons can get out in space. I think that's how they got to win this game. How does Notre Dame win?
The big key for Notre Dame to win, they need Will Howard to run the football. They got to get him out of the pocket because, as you said, those offensive weapons, if he's distributing the ball and receivers are running open, it's going to be a long night for Notre Dame. They've got to shut down everything else and make Will Howard beat you with his legs.
I agree. And both Marcus Freeman and all three of the mainstays of the defensive staff talked about studying that Michigan tape. And I think that's the way to beat him. Obviously, the win streak Michigan's got against Ohio State is pretty prevalent. But if you are able to make it as physical as possible and run right at them, and not only on offense but on defense, contain the run game, I think the key to success specifically isn't Jeremiah Smith, and I think it's Quinshon Judkins in that run game. If you can contain that and get as physical as you can with your front seven tonight, I think that's how Notre Dame wins.
I don't know. I don't see Ohio State running the ball against this Notre Dame defense. Nobody's been able to do it.
They have to be successful, though.
So
because you can't get your weapons downfield if you can't run the ball.
Right, and that's why I say, like, I think Will Howard he's a good athlete.
Yeah,
he's not a game breaking athlete.
He's not. He's number 7 on their 1 through 7 athletes.
He's a good runner. He's not a electric runner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's mobile enough.
Yeah,
and that's not going to.
I think he's a good. He's an effective runner. He's just not he's not going to just beat you by running the football. If you can force him to cover all of his options and have to scramble, I think you can win if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's kind of the case for everybody. But it'll be really interesting tonight because I think that is the matchup. I think it's Will Howard versus Notre Dame secondary, and you said Notre Dame will win if they can cause Ohio State to turn the ball over 2 times. I wholeheartedly agree. I think you have to turn them over multiple times because this offense is good enough to overcome one mistake. They've got enough athletes to overcome a couple of drop passes or a fumble. You don't make them cause them to make multiple mistakes, you're going to be in for a long night.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. I think turnovers are more important for the Notre Dame offense just for the reasons you highlighted.
Yeah.
Clock control. They need to hold on to the ball, have long sustained drives, wear this thing out, give fewer opportunities to that Ohio State offense, which makes turnovers absolutely vital. They cannot give the ball away and give that offense short fields and then take away their own opportunities to march the ball down the field. Turnovers early in possessions are going to be awful for this Notre Dame offense, and I think they have to keep it to 1 or fewer.
I am really intrigued to see how Ohio State runs the football, though, because I think that is the biggest question mark about this game. You know what Jeremiah Smith is. You know what the offensive weapons outside the hash marks are. You know how Notre Dame's going to run the football. You know Riley Leonard's limitations and abilities. I think the Ohio State's ability to run the football against Notre Dame's front 7 is going to be the biggest storyline inside this game. Because to your point, nobody's been able to do it all season, but nobody necessarily has the 2-headed monster. Well, 3-headed monster if you throw the quarterback into the situation with Will Howard that Ohio State does.
And I wonder about coaching, right? And coaching is another wild card in this game because what's the book on Ryan Day? In the big game,
can't win the big one. Yeah,
they fall apart. They are unable to overcome the situation. Now, they've been good in the postseason. They've
been
really
rolling.
good.
They've rolled
been
everybody.
Rolling. They've rolled everyone. The question is now,
winning by an average of 18 points a game in the playoff.
Now it's the big show.
Sure.
Now the lights are bright. This is the big stage. What does Ohio State look like in this spot? That's the question. Marcus Freeman, we have no idea.
Yeah.
Never been here before. Never done this.
He's won a lot, though.
He's won a lot.
And who is it better for college football if they win? We're going to debate that. We're going to give you a prediction for the game on the other side of the break. If you missed this segment, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by Cunningham's Pub. Listen, you can catch the national championship game at both locations. That's right. Derek and crew have opened up Blackstone tonight. You can stop down and catch the game there. You can stop out at Old Mill and watch the game out there. They've got a great menu. They've got great options. They've got a tap takeover going on right now. Don't forget to follow us on social media. You can be eating and drinking at Cunningham's for free on us on Wednesday night as well. Also, try to catch the AFC NFC Championship game. Stop by and get the amazing brunch menu from Cunningham's Pub. We'll be right back. Telling you who's going to win the Natty and who is it better for college football to win this game. We'll talk about that when we come back. 1620 Zone.
Hey, everybody. John Schreiner here for Bob at Williams Law. Do you have a legal situation that's hanging over your head in the new year? Maybe it's a DUI. Maybe it's a civil situation that you're going through. Whatever it is, you need to get Bob on your side. Give him a call at 402-522-6317. Bob's going to give you a free, no obligation legal consultation. You say, okay, but what is free? Well, free is you don't pay anything to talk to Bob. He's going to walk you through the process, explain whatever charges or civil situation you're going through, what your rights are, how the process will work every step of the way, and how he would represent you in court. If that sounds good to you, give him a call at 402-522-6317. Bob comes in and talks to us about all the pressing legal matters in sports, but you don't have to be a big-time sports figure to get the best in legal representation. It's Bob at Williams Law. Check him out at williamslawllc.com.
6:32 on a championship night here on 1620 The Zone. Speaking of championships, download the BU Bruins app to your smartphone right now to follow all the championship action going on Bellevue's campus tonight. We are just moments away from Notre Dame and Ohio State. Before we get to this discussion, give me your prediction. Who wins tonight?
I got Notre Dame 23-20.
Give me Ohio State 31-17. Brody Heidemann?
Oh.
Give me Notre Dame at 27-24.
Dan Campion.
Notre Dame by 3. If I have to put a number on it, 30-27.
High scoring affairs for all of us. My question isn't about who wins, though. It's what's better for college football and the outcome of this game. Notre Dame, as an independent, with all the SEC and Big Ten chest beating, a little more on the Big Ten side these days than the SEC, but does it hurt college football for the first ever 12-team playoff winner to be an independent? You've got everybody that is jumping ship or shutting down the Pac-12, and we're trying to get everybody into a conference, and super conferences are on the horizon, and there's relegation discussion, and do we move to 16? All these conversations. Does Notre Dame winning this national championship just put up a wall of resistance that says, no, we're not moving? College football is fine the way it is, and is that good for college football?
We talked about this with the James Franklin comments, and I'll say this. To anybody out there, coaches, players, fans, anybody, if you think it's so easy to be an independent, go do it.
Sure.
Go be independent if it's such an advantage.
How many?
If there's such a benefit to not playing in a conference, okay, leave your conference.
Right. But there aren't probably more than 10 teams in the country that could do it. And be
My point exactly.
But I don't think that's necessarily the point you're trying to make, though, because it's not like you're telling Notre Dame, go do this fresh out of the breaks in 2025 and be successful. They've been doing it forever, and they've built their brand on doing it. You're asking a team, I mean, I can almost point at what Nebraska did by leaving the Big 12 and going to the Big 10 was a detriment, and almost the same thing, and they've suffered because of it, and they're finally maybe starting to make a breakout because fans are starting to become invested in Big Ten rivalries more than they ever were at the beginning of the conference, right?
Sure.
You have more familiarity. The reason Notre Dame is able to be successful in being independent is they have established rivalries with USC, with Michigan, with Michigan State, with Army, and those are all built in. You're able to be successful in that. And if a Nebraska, a USC, a Michigan, and Ohio State, teams that I think could leave their conferences, be independent, be successful, were able to do that, I think they're only able to do that if they can continue to have games against bigger brands because it's different in 2025. You've got decades of an established brand being an independent with Notre Dame. I don't think if Notre Dame had been in the Big 10 or the Big 12 forever and they were to do this now, I don't think they'd be as successful as they are right now.
But you've made my point for me. It's much harder to be an independent than it is to be in a conference.
Well, it is if you're leaving a conference. If you've always been an independent and you've been able to build that brand over almost 100 years, I think it's a little easier. Doing it now, I think is like if Notre Dame were in a conference and they left now, I think it'd be impossible.
But they're not. They're not in a conference though.
I'm just going to say it.
We're playing hypothetical games. It's not easier to be an independent, period.
It is.
It's not.
It is in a sense, though, John. Because if Notre Dame wins this game tonight, guess who gets all that money that they're going to get that flows into their university?
Notre Dame.
Just them. Not the conference, just them.
Doesn't make it easier, Dan.
That makes it a lot easier.
It does, though, John, because if you imagine this
that's
hypothetical, actually real rev sharing model that they're going to start to impose upon colleges here in the next couple of years, this gets right at the heart of a rev sharing model because they can throw that money back into their university and use it to raise up their college football program, but they can also use it to raise up their men's and women's basketball programs, along with any other sport that they see fit.
The scheduling alone for Notre Dame. Look at the teams that they play.
I mean,
they played Texas A&M, Louisville, Florida State, Army, and USC this year.
It's a good array.
That sound like a difficult schedule?
It sounds more difficult than playing Purdue, Illinois, Vanderbilt.
They also played Purdue.
It's not like you don't have the
and
full
Virginia.
Support of an entire apparatus
and Stanford
taking care of all of your media rights and ensuring that there is legal participation. Like, there's so much more support system involved in being in a conference. You have guaranteed games that you don't have to negotiate every year. You just know they're going to happen. The opponents are there. It's built into the system. You can't just go be independent and expect it all to be roses and butterflies. It is harder to be an independent college football program. It's much harder. Ask UConn. Ask Army and Navy, who have joined conferences now.
Did you really just do that? Ask UConn. You're trying to take everything that Notre Dame has, all their financial resources, all their backgrounds, their large alma mater base, their nationwide following in multiple sports, and comparing it to UConn, who made the jump from Division II to Division I football less than a decade ago? That is not the same thing.
No, UConn did not make the jump less than a decade ago, Jimmy. UConn's always been a Division I football team. They were in the Big East.
But look, you can't look at women's basketball at Notre Dame. That has better financial funding than UConn football.
What happened to UConn football when they went independent?
It died.
It went into the toilet.
Yeah, well, it was kind of there beforehand, but that's neither here nor there.
But they became like the worst program in Division I.
But listen, you can't take regional bias into the equation though. Like, would it be way more difficult for, I don't know, Ohio University to go independent than Nebraska?
Certainly, but it would. But
you don't think Nebraska could go independent tomorrow and get a national TV deal? Let's say ABC or CBS or somebody else was like, we want the rights to Nebraska because there's obviously value to it. And they made sure that Colorado and Oklahoma were their non-conference every single year, and they scheduled Navy, Army, Liberty, and Georgia Tech every single year as agreed upon, that Nebraska wouldn't have wild success. And if they made it to a bowl game, was able to benefit from all that money individually, that it wouldn't benefit Nebraska more than being in the Big Ten.
No, because they wouldn't make $60 million, which is what their rev share from the Big Ten is. They would not.
I think they could.
No way. Not a chance. Not with that garbage schedule that you just laid out. Nobody's paying.
I just laid out Notre Dame's schedule.
But it's Notre Dame. It's the Catholic institution.
That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not easy for everybody to just go independent. It's easy for them because they're large alma mater base, their nationwide following, and the fact that they've been doing it forever.
So why are we hating on them for being able to do something that? Because it's hard.
I was asking if it's who it's better for. And I think if college football is to progress, if college football is to take the next step, if college football is to correct NIL, if college football is able to is to say we're going to stick with this level of number of playoff teams and we're going to put these parameters around it, it would be better and easier for everybody if Notre Dame was in a conference. They're the one outlier. They're the one thing that's making everything more difficult.
I don't agree. I don't agree. Like,
how?
Why do they have to be in a conference?
Because right now, the way the structure is set up, it is only beneficial for Notre Dame for them not to be in a conference. Everybody else has the built-in bye if they win the conference, but they have to play in a conference championship game to get there, so they have an extra game. Therefore, Notre Dame automatically gets a bye in that spot because they don't have to play the opening. They don't have to play the conference championship game, so they get that week off, and they get home field advantage if they make the playoffs and are a top 8 seed, a la this season. They get all the revenue sharing money to themselves, and they don't have to play the extra game.
And they're guaranteed to have to play 4 games to win a national title every year, which other teams won't have.
No, but if you win your conference and you're supposed to be rewarded for it by getting that bye, you're already giving that to Notre Dame for not even being in a conference.
It's not the same thing.
How is that not the same?
It's an extra week.
They get an extra week off. They don't have to play an opponent of the level of a opposite side of a conference title game. So somebody that is of the equal or close to equal competition level, they get an extra week off of rest to prepare for and could probably navigate where they're going to be and start gaming or scheming for the team that they're going to play against, and they get an extra week of prep. How is that not? How is that not the same thing?
But that team that won the conference championship game gets the first round bye. So what's the difference?
So does Notre Dame, though. They get another week off. They don't have to play.
They don't, because they have to play 4 games.
Listen, if Notre Dame plays 12 regular season games, right, they get a week off for the bye. Okay, how many games have they played? They've still played 12, right?
They have still.
So
played
if you
12.
win the Big Ten, you've played 13 games and you get a bye.
Sure.
Notre Dame now has to play in the first week. How many games have they played?
Ohio State didn't have to
How
play
many
in their
games have they
conference.
played? That's still 13. It's the same thing. They automatically get a bye by not having to play a conference title game.
So
and they don't have to worry about getting hurt.
Then Ohio State automatically got a bye by not having to play in their conference title game.
Everyone automatically gets a bye because Army-Navy week is a standalone week. Are we going to play this game all night?
It's a complete advantage to Notre Dame, 100%.
Then it was an advantage to Ohio State to not make the conference title game.
Yeah.
I agree.
The system's messed up.
But was it an advantage for Oregon?
I don't know. They won a conference title.
Right. So they had to play an extra game. They played one more.
Which you have told us is vitally important.
Right. But we're talking about Notre Dame here. We're not talking about the old. You asked me, how is it not better for, how is Notre Dame benefiting from this? They don't have to play a competition to the level of a conference title game. They have to play lesser competition, which I don't think anybody would debate on based off the schedule that I just read to you. And they get an automatic bye every year, no matter what. Even if they win 12 games, they get an automatic bye because they're getting rewarded for being successful and they're not being punished for losing.
Then if it's such a benefit, everyone else should do it. That's my point. If it's so easy, if it's just Notre Dame has this super easy path to the college football playoff because they're independent, then go ahead and be independent and see how you fare. Go ahead and do it.
You're taking a sample size of one team that has been able to do it forever and has the second largest alma mater base in the country, and they have the highest revenue generating football program in the country, and saying that is the same exact thing if Louisiana Tech went and did this.
I don't know what you want me to say. Like
I don't see how you see that as the same thing.
It's not the same thing, but that's the world. Like it's not the same thing when Ohio State plays Northern Iowa. Like it's not the same thing when Northern Illinois beats Notre Dame.
All right. So the discussion, the whole part of this discussion was who benefits the most. How does college football benefit by this one standalone entity that can do this, that has the ability, the financial resources, and all the tools around it to be successful doing it outside of conferences, but looks at everybody in the Big Ten and the SEC and goes, but we want to base everything that we're doing in the future around conferences.
I think I see where the argument's coming from now. You're trying to point at or aim at a world where all of college football is on a level playing field. Everyone's on even footing. And that is not now the case, nor has it ever been the case, nor will it ever be the case in college football that everyone is starting from the same level. Like the teams in the Big Ten, the teams in the SEC are starting 3, 4, 5 steps up the ladder ahead of everyone else from day one. They just are.
Who is?
The teams in the Big Ten and the SEC.
Okay.
They're 4 or 5 steps up the ladder.
Why?
Because of the apparatus that surrounds them, the amount of money they generate from being associated with that revenue-generating conference and their media deals. They have tremendous resources and tremendous attention paid to them. There's more dedication to athletics in those conferences than there are in the others.
So shouldn't it be the NCAA or the powers that be of college football's best interest or job even to make sure that everybody is generating those same exact advantages to get everybody on an equal playing field or as close to as possible?
So you want to tell the networks that they have to pay the same amount of money for the rights deal for the Mountain West as they do for the SEC?
No, I want the Mountain West and the Pac, whatever's the Pac-12 eventually going to be, to have the same ability to compete on the same playing field and benefit the same as everybody else. And the only way to do that is to make the rules as structured as possible. And if you have everybody that is following these rules benefiting in a certain way and saying, listen, because the ultimate goal is to win a championship, right? That's what college football is supposed to do. It's supposed to decide who wins in that. How do you structure rules for everybody when one entity, which is probably the most profitable, is not playing by the same rules as everybody else? How
are they not playing by the same rules?
Because they're not in a conference. You can't make the same rules for a Boise State that you can for Notre Dame because it's a different path.
I don't see why not. Like we've already structured the playoffs so that there's equal access now. But it's not equal access. There won't ever be equal access because the perception of the teams that play in the bigger conference, the perception of the teams that play in the bigger conferences is always going to be higher, and a 2-loss team from the SEC is always going to have it.
How do you say that when Boise State just hosted a playoff game or just had a bye in the playoffs? Like I think this season debunked that wholeheartedly.
They were a conference champion.
Yeah, right.
Who happened to be ranked ahead of some other conference champions and got themselves a bye.
So I think that would give them as close to an equal playing field as they've ever had, if not more.
Okay, so how is it like Notre Dame is ineligible to get a bye?
But they already get one, though, by not having to listen. The structure, the reason you get a bye is you're supposed to be rewarded, right? This is in theory a reward for winning a conference title, right?
And Tennessee had that same bye.
But listen,
and Ohio State had that same bye.
This is supposed to be a reward, correct? Yeah. How can you look at it that way when somebody else is automatically getting rewarded given that gift by not having to do anything? You don't have to worry about the risk of injury. You don't have to worry about strategizing for another team beforehand. You don't have to worry about a one extra week of prep. They're the only ones that already slated get that advantage because Ohio State had to lose and Penn State had to win for this to even be a possibility. Notre Dame doesn't even have to worry about that. They know they have the week off.
Look at what happened to Carson Beck.
Look what happened to Carson Beck. Thanks, Brody.
Two-loss Notre Dame. Do they get in?
Yeah.
I don't think they do. There's an SEC team in their spot.
Not this year. Most years, yes. If they would have lost to USC and Louisville, who's in the top 15, yeah, I think they get in.
I don't know.
Now, if they lose to Northern Illinois,
I don't think so. I think
they lose to Northern Illinois and Texas A&M this year, probably
for the
not.
Exact reason you're saying, they get dinged for not being in a conference because they don't play an SEC schedule. They don't play a Big Ten schedule. Notre Dame has to go undefeated or maybe one loss to make it to the playoff in this scenario. I stand behind that.
The trouble with Notre Dame's schedule is that because they are, I'll say it, a blue blood of college football, a 100-year-old program.
You can argue easily. The blue blood.
Yeah. They are one of the oldest programs in college football, and they have the respect and they have the ability to draw a crowd, an alumni base, all that bullcrap. One thing they don't have the ability to draw is multiple marquee matchups per season. They have the ability to play one of their 100-year-old rivals every single year, and then it is just the dregs of whatever else a conference wants to slide their way.
They played Florida State, USC, and Texas A&M this year.
Crap.
Well,
crappity crap.
Yeah, but Florida State was supposed to be good.
Yeah.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make, is those are pretty marquee games. So I don't want to hear they struggle to play the big opponents. No, they don't.
They do.
I just gave you 4 teams that were slated before the season to be in the top 4 of their conferences.
Before the season.
Yeah, but you don't. Okay, that's when you make the schedule, though, Dan. Last year they played Ohio State, USC, Clemson, and who was the 4th one? Duke, who was a top 25 team.
I don't know. I'm
Duke who plays in the ACC.
The year before that, they played Ohio State, North Carolina, BYU, Syracuse, Clemson,
and they shouldn't have played
USC.
Duke last year because Duke was stupid enough to go to Notre Dame, get what's his name, Sam Goodhair and Riley Leonard together, and to convince Riley Leonard to come there for a year.
The year before that, they played Florida State, Wisconsin, USC, and Virginia Tech, and North Carolina. I don't want to hear they struggle to get opponents.
Everybody wants to play Notre Dame.
Yeah, you know why? Because you make a bunch of money.
Exactly.
Like making their schedule is easy, and I don't want to hear that. Oh, they have to make their own schedule every year. No, people are beating down their door to come to South Bend because they want the paycheck. So I don't want to hear. Well, they've got to go through the rigmarole trying to find opponents. No, they do not.
And I don't want to hear this extra bye bullcrap. Everyone gets an extra bye.
No, they don't.
Every single year. Every single year, no matter what, there is an extra bye on everyone's schedule because Army and Navy is a standalone game. If you want this to be made right
wants it to go
and this
away,
to be
though.
made perfect, you move Army Navy either to the start of the season or, big shocker here, you just move Notre Dame's schedule back a full week. If you really don't want them to have a bye and a quote-unquote competitive advantage, that's all you have to do.
Or you could just make them join a conference because everybody else is in one. Hey, if you missed our segment tonight,
or you could just get rid of their NBC deal that they have. Wouldn't that make it easy?
You want to make us listen to us yell at each other? Check it out at SoundCloud.com/AfterHours1620. It was brought to you by Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. It's cold outside. You don't want it to be cold inside. Get the maintenance done on your HVAC unit this winter so you're not hanging out with Jack Frost in your living room. Head over to ControlledComfort.com. They'll take a look at your furnace, make sure it's running up to speed, but they'll also take a look at your AC and make sure the summer didn't take too much of a toll on it as well. Check out ControlledComfort.com and book a maintenance appointment tonight. We're going to find out what Nick Saban thinks about fixing college football. Does he think Notre Dame gets an extra bye? We'll debate on the other side of the break here on 1620 Zone. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Pepper Jack's Grill. Listen, I stopped by Pepper Jack's today and grabbed myself a steak, rice bowl, onions, mushrooms, green peppers all over the top of it, a little bit of shredded cheese, and some mild salsa to go along with the black olives. Made sure I got some of that spicy ranch over the top of it. I stopped by the 132nd Center location. There are 10 locations with 2 new ones coming to the Omaha area very soon. Stop by one of 10 Pepper Jack's great locations tonight and grab dinner.
I'm not done yelling.
We never are. It's the After Hours Lounge brought to you by Bellevue University. Download the BU Bruins app to keep up to date on all the championship action happening on Bellevue's campus. It is time for the social media soundbite where the wonderkin himself, Dan Campen, has surfed the webs, put his nose to the grindstone, found the most precious clip on the internet. Dana?
Well, of course I did. And it's from the most precious man on the entire internet. One Mr. Nicholas Rapscallion Saban. I don't know what his middle name is.
Go ahead and cancel these sponsors. I could give you 5 million guesses. You wouldn't give me Nick Saban's middle name.
Oh,
Orenthal.
I'm gonna give you each one.
Lou.
How did you know this?
It's his dad's name, Lou Saban.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, I
Is
didn't
that
know.
his actual middle
Yeah,
name?
good call.
What?
All right,
Yeah.
I had
there you
no
go.
idea.
I was going to say Lou as well.
All right, well, I guess I could have given you one guess. You all would have gotten it. I'm an idiot.
Lou Saban was the coach of the Miami Dolphins.
So was Nick Saban at one point.
He was. Lou Saban coached Omaha's own.
Ooh.
When he played in the league.
All right, I can give you a million guesses. You wouldn't guess Lou Saban's. Omaha's own who?
I'm struggling with the name right now.
Wasn't Gale Sayers, was it?
No.
This is great radio. Back to here. You figure that out. I'll give my thoughts on Nick Saban.
Marlon Briscoe. That's it. It's Marlon Briscoe. Yes, Marlon Briscoe was coached by Lou Saban.
If this is a little asinine of a statement, right? Like you can't be playing players $30 million while somebody else is paying somebody $3 million because of everything we just yelled about at each other for 15 minutes, right? Like there has been since the beginning of time the haves and the haves not in college athletics.
Yep.
And revenue sharing may become a thing, and it's probably going to sooner rather than later, to Dan's point earlier. But NIL and paying players for their name, image, and likeness for commercials and autograph signings and appearances is always going to be legal. I don't think this is fixable.
It's NIL's not fixable because it's the same reason that Patrick Mahomes can make $100 million in endorsements and Joe Tooney makes $0 in endorsements.
Yeah, and there's a salary cap in the NFL, in case anybody's wondering.
Right. It's because some personalities and players are marketable and some are not. Like
because of their personal value. Yeah.
Right. Their name, their image, and their likeness is just worth more money.
Yeah, I'm better looking than John, so I make more money for doing radio.
Debatable. But the NIL thing, no. That's always going to be imbalanced. And the players who play for the more popular the teams that are winning, they're always going to make more money than the players who play for the other teams.
The starting quarterback in Notre Dame will always make more money than the starting quarterback in Middle Tennessee State.
Yes.
Really quick update. 4th and 1 inside of the red zone. Notre Dame has the ball. They've gone through 4 on 4th and 3 earlier in the drive and got it with Riley Leonard up the middle. They're in the red zone now, and they're going to call the same exact play. Riley Leonard picks up the first, and they're pushing towards the end zone. He's going to be short of the end zone, but they do get a fresh set of downs.
So the NIL thing is that genie's out of the bottle, and it's a free market, and players are allowed to make whatever their name, image, and likeness will garner them.
Which they should be.
That's just how it works now.
That's how the world works.
The revenue sharing model, you can absolutely fix it. You can put a smaller cap on how much revenue can be shared to make it a competitive balance. Like the salary cap in the NFL is not subject to antitrust law. That's already been litigated, and it's legal. They can do that. They can cap how much you can spend on sharing your revenues.
Touchdown.
So the NCAA could absolutely say, okay, we're going to lower the cap so that the teams who are a little further down the pecking order have at least some chance of staying in the same ballpark as the big boys. They could absolutely do that. They will not. They won't do that, but they could.
Part of me hopes that like whatever Temple's version of Warren Buffett is, just one day decides, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just drop this bag right here in Philadelphia and see what they could build with $80 million.
No shade to SMU, but SMU, they're putting the money out there. They have a lot of
SMU's always had money.
Yeah, Brody, they've done this before.
They got in trouble for it once in the 80s.
But they continue to
Ask
throw
your
money
parents
out
about
there.
Watch
the
Pony
80s.
Excess.
Pony Excess.
Yeah, it's a
It's
30
a
for
30
30. It's not what you thought it was, apparently. Ask your parents about SMU in the 80s. Ask your parents about the 80s.
The NIL issue can easily be resolved resolving about another like 20 issues with just college football as it stands right now. Because to be fair, all you would have to do is split up the haves and the have-nots in college football and do the old play up, play down kind of deal with the relegation like we've talked in soccer multiple times on this show. And the same thing would work with college basketball. And there would be a point where you could say, all right, we have to figure out an even level of like.
Probably need Notre Dame to join a conference first, but go ahead.
Don't.
You would. But who really cares about that right now? Because that's not what we're talking about.
People in the YouTube comments.
The thing about fixing NIL is there's no good way to do it. And if we can
there's any way to do
if we can allude to what Nick Saban has said, if the government steps in, That's just going to make it
because
way
they've always
worse.
been keen to fixing things. Can I make a statement real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't have any problem because I'll tell you this. You know what the last thing I'm thinking of when they kick off on Saturdays? I wonder how much that safety's getting paid. I don't think about it on Sundays either. I don't have an issue with the way I think it is. I think the market is as fair as it's ever been. You can go somewhere and make the most money that you possibly can for your value if somebody is willing to pay for it.
Right, but there are also
I can't wait until
situations, Jimmy. You know this. Like players in the NBA would rather play in New York or Los Angeles than they would Memphis, or Houston, because the endorsement deals you can get in New York and LA are much richer than you can get in Oklahoma City.
But here's the difference. I know the comparison you're trying to make, but but LA and New York have the ability to trade for those players in Memphis if they choose to, which means they can offer the amount of value that they think is worth that player is worth. You can't do that in college sports. That gives these players that ability.
What I'm saying to you is from an NIL perspective, it's always going to be unbalanced. Like there is no balance.
How's that different? How's that different than college football 40 years ago?
It's not. Okay. It's not different. That's not.
So why do we need to fix this? If nothing has changed,
I'm not talking like NIL. I'm saying this issue needs to be put to bed. We need to stop talking about balancing the playing field in NIL.
I thought you were trying to make the opposite.
No.
Okay, all right.
No.
Then we're agreeing.
We need to put that conversation to bed. NIL's out of the bag. It's going to be unbalanced, and there's nothing you can do about it. The government can try to step in, but they're going to make a law that's going to be unconstitutional, is going to get struck down in the Supreme Court again.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to work. You can't do it.
Look at you, student athletes.
The revenue sharing model can absolutely be done in such a way that it is fair and equitable. It can, because this is not a traditional restriction of your ability to earn money. This is everybody has the same ability to earn money.
Do you have a problem with the transfer portal?
On principle, no, I don't have a problem with the transfer portal. I don't, because of all the reasons we've gone over a dozen times.
I know, but we've never talked about it at this level, because I don't either. I personally think that it's a free market, and I understand that coaches' jobs are more difficult. They get paid a lot of money to be able to fix these problems.
Because if you're not just paying lip service and you're truly talking about student athletes, right? Mm-hmm. Remove the athlete part. You're a student. Can you transfer to any school you want at any time?
As often as you want.
Absolutely, you can.
Yeah.
And can you start at one school and another school says, hey, your scores are really good. We'd really like you to join our honors program in nuclear physics.
And we're going to give you a bunch of benefits to do it.
And would anyone blame you for going there and doing that?
Not one person.
Not a bit. So there's a certain level of hypocrisy that comes into play when we talk about sports.
And I don't want to hear fill in the blank MAC coach say, well, it's a real disservice to us to have Florida State come in here and pick our. No, it's not. Because then you go talk to the same kids you've been recruiting and go, hey, listen, you can come here for 2 years. You might be paid a whole boatload of money in the ACC. This is you morph into the JUCO sales pitch. It's the same thing. And by the way, it's not that much different than 10 years ago.
It really, yes, there's more player movement, but honestly, the restrictions on player, and Kansas State was one of the worst offenders under Bill Snyder to do this, where a player would come in,
Brody, ask your parents about
get buried on the depth chart, want to transfer, and Bill Snyder would give them a list of teams of schools that they were not allowed to go to.
Which I think most coaches would take, by the way.
Which was just absurd. Like, it's absolutely asinine, because in no other field do you go and start, doing your work essentially, and then you're maybe unsatisfied with how it's going at this new job, and they say, okay, well, if you're quitting, here are the other places you can't work.
Well, there's non-competes, but
there's non-compete clauses.
90% of those are illegal too, though.
Sure, but it's not like in most fields we say, well, you worked at Walmart, you're not allowed to go work at Target now. We won't let you. You either work for us or, well, maybe we'll let you go work at a construction company, but you're not working in retail anywhere. It's ridiculous.
Brody, you can't go work at Victoria's Secret after this. Hey, if you missed the social media soundbite tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhour1620, wherever you may find your podcast at. It was brought to you by our friends at Pixel Fire Marketing. Do you know where you show up at on Google searches if you own a business? If you're not at the top of the list, you need to be working with Pixel Fire Marketing. Head over to pixelfiremarketing.com. Work with Courtney, the Google gal, and Dan DeSavi. They're going to make sure that you're getting the results you're looking for from your search engine optimization. They're also going to make sure those Google reviews that you're supposed to be getting are actually showing up on your page. Make sure you have a landing page to respond to it as well. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details today. We're buy or selling on the other side of the break. I'll yell at John and Schreiner some more. You're on 1620 The Zone. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for AX Plumbing. If you've been standing around your drain, you're just watching the water slowly go down, you're like, I'll just get some drain out tomorrow. No. There's probably a much bigger underlining problem. You need to work with a plumber the quality of AX Plumbing. Head over to axpservice.com tonight. Maybe you're opening up your wallet. You're like, there's not as much green Benjamins in there as we'd like. You find a way to pay for this. There's financing available by AX Plumbing as well. Check out axpservice.com for all your plumbing, water heater issues, backflow preventions, all of that. Nick and his team covered all. Check out axpservice.com tonight. You don't need to watch the national championship game. We'll just keep you up to date. They're currently 7-0 Notre Dame. The Irish driving down the field, second and 15 from the Irish 30. We'll keep you up to date as the national championship game rolls on here. This is the After Hours Lounge brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. If you need your roof, windows, gutters, or siding replaced, they can do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com and book a free estimate tonight. It's time for Buy or Sell. With the pride of all of Gretna, Nebraska, Brody Heidemann answers your phone calls and answers questions or asks us questions.
Boys, Alabama, Auburn. Well, Auburn is the unanimous number one men's basketball team. Buy or sell that the Tigers are the best team in the country?
I buy. And Johnny Broome is why, man. He's such an anomaly. He's bigger than just about everybody on the court in most situations. He's averaging a double-double. They have 6 guys, 6 players. That's more than a starting 5, by the way, averaging double digits a game. They're elite on the offensive glass, and Johnny Broome's a lot of reason for that. I predicted before the season that they'd be the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. I still remain with that fact, and I think they're the best team.
I sell simply because at this point in the season, the team that's ranked number 1 is rarely ranked number 1 at the end. They're rarely the team that wins the national title. I think Auburn's pretty good. I don't know if they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg and the folks in Durham, I have something to say about it.
Alabama is a basketball state, which is crazy to It's crazy to say this year.
Nate Oates is really good.
He's pretty good.
I believe it's called third month of the year madness.
Oh, yeah.
And it's January right now. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the AP poll comes out a little bit too early.
Oh, Dan.
We're not advertising anything. We can say March Madness all we want.
Damn.
We can.
Yeah, it's just
March Madness.
You just can't say it in reference to this thing is selling something. March Madness, blah, 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 blah.
Dan,
okay.
Did you get a new drum for Christmas? Because you've been beating the hell out of this one.
Yes, I have.
Brody, what else you got?
Arch Manning has officially been handed the keys to the kingdom, and Sark has been given a 5-year extension. Buy or sell that it's national title or bust for Texas in 2025?
Buy, because it's always national title or bust for Texas.
Exactly.
That's the expectation in Austin. The fans there will settle for nothing less. So, and now with no excuses for not making it to the playoff at the very least, Texas got to win a national title in the next 2 to 3 years, or Sark is on his way out.
Yeah, not only did you give Sark the extension, but you've run out the former number 1 overall player in the country for the heir apparent from a family with great lineage who everybody thinks is the second coming. If you don't win now, while you're in the SEC and you can't build on the momentum you got this year, I'm not going to say never, but it's going to be a real tough out. I think it's national championship, not even 2 or 3 years. It's national championship or bust this season.
And the thing with Arch Manning is, I think he's obviously a one and done. There's no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's no doubt that this is going to be a 1-year wonder. So you gotta hit on it this year. Otherwise, it's going to be a new quarterback in the next year. The Bears have hired Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Buy or sell, this is the right move for the Bears?
I buy. I think it was only a matter of time before, obviously, Ben Johnson got a job. I think he's probably got a little bit of buyer's remorse going back to Detroit this season. But him with Caleb Williams is going to be a tremendous matchup, in my opinion. He's got to find somebody that can help him manage in game, though, because he's got to go up against the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings twice a year, every year now. I think there's going to be a learning curve, but this is, again, speaking of beating drums, I said he shouldn't have drafted Caleb Williams when he did, and I didn't think it made sense then, and I don't think it makes sense now. But with that being said, I still think Ben Johnson's a good coach and a good hire.
Yeah, Ben Johnson's a great coach. I love what he's done with that offense in Detroit. It's looked light years better than anything Detroit has produced in a long, long while. I think that this was the best option for the Bears. This is as good as they could have done at this point.
Sell from the Bears' perspective, because they're always going to be a poopy, stinky franchise and don't deserve to have any nice toys. Buy from a Ben Johnson standpoint, because he is young, he is hungry, he seems to be ready for a head coaching position. And with all of those offensive weapons that they have in Chicago right now, I have a feeling that he's going to get in there next year and make life in the North a little bit of a heck for everybody else who's in division right now.
My feed the entire day was a bunch of trick plays from Ben Johnson against the Bears. So the weapons they have on that offense, when they get him in there, might be interesting.
I will say this, though. Like, that's when I realized how much trouble that the Lions were in, because I'm always of the volition. If you have to go to a trick play, you're out of ideas. And I did love the little shovel pass off the option sweep look, and like that's a little bit of a different situation.
Option reverse shovel pass.
Yeah, and then obviously when Teddy Bridgewater got into the game, the touchdown that they had from that play. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm willing to reserve caution and say I've got to see it over a long period of time before I'm willing to say it was the correct hire. But for what their options are right now, I think it was the best available.
Not all heroes wear capes.
They don't.
Xavier took down Marquette this weekend as Creighton knocked off UConn in stores. Buy or sell, the Jays have a shot at winning the Big East regular season title.
Honestly, this is the best shot they've had since conference play started. I mean, you're one game behind St. John's now, and you've got the tiebreaker over them. Marquette still has to come to Omaha. UConn has to come back to Omaha as well. You get DePaul this weekend. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Creighton could be the number one seed going into New York.
They have a shot. I think it's possible. I think on the whole, they're going to have to play a lot better than they have. That the UConn team that we saw, not a vintage UConn team. This team has holes.
Oh, you hate to see it, don't you?
Marquette still looks really good despite the loss. It's going to be an uphill climb.
With that being said, you still got to play Xavier twice, and they just beat Marquette.
It's going to be an uphill climb, and look, Creighton's got holes too.
Yeah.
Like that's not a polished team by any means. So
you still keep getting 13 points per game out of Isaac Trout. That's a recipe for success, man.
It's possible. I'll say that.
John Harbaugh comes up short again in the playoffs. Buy or sell, he should be on the hot seat.
Who wrote this question?
Brody.
No. Sell. John Harbaugh is one of the 3 best coaches in the league. There's no chance he should be on the hot seat.
Did he get hired in 2007?
This is an asinine question.
Hear me out.
No.
No. John Harbaugh should not be on the hot seat. I wholeheartedly agree. But there's a contingency of fans that have started to kind of show their ugly faces on social media and talking about the squandering of Lamar Jackson's career. And is he not reaching his full potential? This happens again next year. That seat might start to warm up from that fan base. And
I think
Baltimore, hear me out. You don't want to do this because John Harbaugh should be allowed to coach that team for as long as he wants to. But the naysayers are starting to show up in Baltimore.
And I agree with Jimmy. I also think it could also be the players. A guy like Lamar Jackson.
I don't know if your tight end catches a pass. Different discussion today.
But a guy like Lamar Jackson maybe wants a little younger, more stylistic coach to come in.
I don't know, man. Lamar seems kind of loyal to the soil. He loves Mark Andrews. It's a lot of the reason that there's not going to be as much heat on him this offseason. He loves John Harbaugh by all accounts. So, it'd be really hard. It would take a really tough sell for me to tell me that the players are going to run John Harbaugh out too. Like, he seems to be a player's coach.
And I want to put a little asterisk next to that too. It'd be a real tough sell for Andrew Biscotti to want to run Harbaugh out of town because he did not put up with Billick for that long. And he's been putting up with John Harbaugh for almost triple the amount of time that he's put up with Brian Billick.
And if you're John Harbaugh and somebody's like, well, we feel like you're squandering Lamar's career, I'd say, let me tell you about this guy named Joe Flacco that I won a Super Bowl with. Hey, if you missed Buy or Sell tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours 1620. Brody's questions, not as dumb as they were brought to you by Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. It is cold outside. You don't need it to be cold inside. If your thermostat isn't necessarily keeping up with the heater, maybe it's colder in your house than it's supposed to, have a maintenance appointment set up with Controlled Comfort. Head over to controlledcomfort.com so you're not hanging out with Jack Frost in your living room this winter. Doug, stay right there. We'll get to your phone calls. We'll update you on the national championship and a whole lot more as the After Hours Lounge rolls on here on 1620 The Zone. Hey, we're just 20 days removed from the New Year's. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Bob Williams with Williams Law. If you or somebody you know made a bad decision, you were out with the friends late at night, had a couple of drinks, and got behind the wheel of a vehicle, and now you're facing a DUI charge, but you have some questions that you need answered, get a free, no-obligation legal consultation with Bob Williams. Bob and his team will sit down with you. They'll explain your rights. They'll walk you through the situation and tell you how you can deal with your big day in court. Head over to WilliamsLawLLC.com. Get that free, no-obligation legal consultation with Bob Williams and team tonight. Welcome back inside the After Hours Lounge, 726 on a championship Monday night, brought to you by brought to you by our friends at Pyramid Contractors. Windows, roofs, gutters, siding, they can do it all. Head over to pyramidroof.com and book a free estimate tonight. You can always change the subject about what we're talking about at 402-951-1620, where we go to Doug. Doug, welcome inside the After Hours Lounge.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for taking my call.
Good evening.
I've heard you guys do a lot, yeah. And I'm going to jump over here and watch the game here very soon. I promise. Cause I got a couple bets on that, but
we'll take those tips at the end of the call.
Yeah, no, probably not. But because I'm not good. But with players in collegiate sports, there's really only two ways to go. And like if you look at other leagues and how this works, developmental programs, you either unionize, which is not going to happen, or you do contractual stuff. Which that's how every other sport around the world does contractual agreements with developing players, which are bought and sold by the organization that owns the contract. And if you want to develop Ohio State, for example, sign the contract and then they buy or sell, based on your development. I mean, that's how it works in soccer, which is the biggest sport in the world. And there's a model. So like, you have to be allegiant to your school stuff. It's antiquated and it doesn't make sense. So that's my point.
Doug, the one thing, and I appreciate it. Really quick, Doug, what's the bet we need tonight? Who are we rooting for?
Well, I need the points over, which is not going to happen.
What's the total?
I think
55?
It's 45.
Okay.
Yeah, 45.
All right. Well, good luck, Doug.
Yeah.
We hope you hit it. And I'm gonna give you my thoughts on that, because the one problem you're gonna run into with the contract thing, and I'm in agreement. I think he's right about that. But the one problem you're going to run into is the first contract, the quote contract you're going to sign as a college level player. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be a minor, and you're going to need parents' involvement in said contract signing. Well, I think most people would say, well, that's not a problem. Most parents want their kids to go to school and get all this money and yada, yada, yada. There have been multiple, and I mean multiple YouTube signing day disasters, where you've had parents grabbing national letters of intent and running out of rooms. You've had clear displeasure by the parents based on the school the child has picked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think yes, broad strokes, 80% of your problems probably fixed by contracts. There's still going to be a couple issues.
But he brings up an interesting point of teams, schools, universities selling contracts to transfer players to make revenue, right?
I do. Which I think you're going to have to,
which is what he's right on. That's what happens in soccer. Like lower level teams will develop a player, and once he becomes too good to stay there, they sell his contract, transfer him to a better team so that he can go make more money playing for that team. He's going to get more endorsement deals. He's going to play at a higher level.
You brought up the NBA earlier. That happens a ton in the NBA as well.
And then
Shaq played for the Magic.
We've already thrown off the shackles of this amateurism joke that never was real in the first place. So, I mean, when we go to that, then college football truly is minor league football. It really is.
But I mean, it really has. They draft college players for a reason. It's been minor league football for a long time.
It truly has. And then, maybe eventually we do away with the NFL draft and colleges get to sell their contracts to NFL teams too.
Which I don't want. I still love the NFL draft. Please don't do that. 7-7 in the national championship game. Ohio State just scored, and Notre Dame got the ball back inside their own 5. They moved the ball a little bit, and then Ohio State just caused them to go 3 and out. Riley Leonard looks like he's seeing ghosts a little bit right now. He's been ran off his spot a ton.
It was their first drive down in the red zone. It was a quarterback just run right up the middle. He kind of dove, and you saw him get up. He was grimacing, and then he went to the sideline. They showed him, and he was holding his ribs, and it looked like he was trying to breathe, and you could just tell maybe something's a little off.
Yeah, he's running for his life a little bit, specifically the last 2 possessions, and they just punted to Ohio State, who will start with the ball on their, I think that was the 45. It looks like there's a flag down Notre Dame's sideline, not very happy with whatever just happened. So We'll keep you updated on that. We're going to talk about who were the biggest winners and losers of the entire 12-team playoff. We come back. If you missed that segment, want to check out Doug's call, give it a listen at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. Is brought to you by our friends at Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear, the premier suit buying experience in the Midwest. Sports coats, slacks, ties, golf polos, you name it, Jerry Ryan's got it, and most of it is at a discounted price. Stop by 78th and Dodge for the rest of the month and be the best dressed guy at your big event. Maybe you're getting ready for your big wedding day. I got my suit at Jerry Ryan. Dan got his at Jerry Ryan. You can get yours at Jerry Ryan. Stop by 78th and Dodge. They've been dressing Omaha for over 50 years. Winners and losers of the 12-team playoff. We come back. 1620 The Zone.
You guys aren't going to believe what I'm about to tell you. Pepper Jack's, it's got 12 great local locations. Who would have thunk it? Maybe not you, but I know it. Pepper Jack's is the only place where I can get my steak gunner Philly with all the vegetables, including my spicy jalapeno juice, because I like to live my life on the wild side, and Pepper Jack's understands that. So if you want to be just like producer Dan Campanen, go to Pepper Jack's tonight. It's easy to find. They've got 12 great local locations.
$7:35 on a national championship version of the After Hours Lounge. 7-7.
Yeah, we won the national championship, guys.
We did. Congratulations. 7-7 is the current score in the game. Ohio State with the ball driving on, I believe this is their third possession of the game. Who were the winners and the losers of the 12-team college football playoff? Obviously, we don't have the overall champion yet. But from an off-the-field standpoint, we're going to give you two winners and two losers each. I'm going to go start us off. My first winner is James Franklin. I think he obviously able to get to the Final Four without beating Michigan or Ohio State, and was about probably 5 minutes away from a national title appearance if that game would have gone any longer. I think he's the overall winner out of all of this. I think he got a little bit of the stench off of him about not winning the big one, despite still kind of not winning the big one, and I think it helped him out tremendously.
I think the overall winner is the Big Ten.
Good call.
I think that in this playoff, with how the SEC fell flat on its face, and only Texas, their newest member, was able to make it to the Final Four, all of the SEC chants died in the night. And it certainly looks, from an outside perspective, that the Big Ten, which had 2 teams in the Final Four of the playoff, is the dominant force in college football now. Now, the perception will still be around the SEC because they have all the talent-rich recruiting bases and all that. But
bigger name personalities as coaches, too.
But from an on-field performance perspective, this is the year of the Big Ten.
Yeah, 2 teams in the Big Ten, the Final Four, to your point. And the Big Ten, the SEC had 5 of the final 8 and 7 of the 12 teams. I mean, for everybody that wants the super conference discussion, I think this is your jumping off point saying here's your proof in the pudding. My first loser, and who I think is the biggest loser. Did you want to give a winner, Dan? Sorry.
I do.
Okay, who do you got?
Because my winner this year was parity. The idea that the 4 conference champions did not make it to the final 4 games of this college football playoff, to me, is hats off, like the best part about all of this, because it shows that you don't necessarily have to win your conference. You don't necessarily have to be the one to even make it to your conference championship game. You could end up playing for a national title.
Get on Magpie for Notre Dame. My biggest loser, and I don't even think this is debatable, is Kurt Cignetti. Indiana would have had all the momentum heading into the offseason this year if this was a typical year, may have probably won their bowl game. You could have looked at it and said, we were a heartbeat away. We should have been playing for a Big Ten title. We should have won a Big Ten championship. And you walk into a recruit's house and say, we just needed you to make the difference. Make the college football playoff. You don't do so hot in that game. Now, it probably helps if you lose the eventual national champion. But I don't feel like you have all the momentum you would have at a traditional end to a season maybe a year ago. So I think Kurt Cignetti is the biggest loser.
Yeah, I understand your take, and I agree with it to a degree. But now Kurt Cignetti gets to walk into households and say, we've already made the college football playoff. We need you to make it to the next round of the college football playoff.
Sure.
My biggest loser is Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. I mean, to be number 1 virtually the entire season, you go undefeated, you win your conference, and you get boat raced in your only college football playoff game.
You already beat.
Whew, that is a sour taste to end the season on, especially when you had, the big money transfer in Dylan Gabriel. You've got one of the best defensive players in the country. Like, this was supposed to be the year that Oregon put all of those Oregon tropes to bed, and they only lit the fire a little bigger.
Won the queue and done. Dan, biggest loser?
Structure and seeding of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
While some of it made sense, a lot of it has not made sense. There obviously is, as we've seen already, the battle-tested Ohio State Buckeyes are the ones who are in the championship. And as John just so aptly pointed out, the best, air quotes, camera that's up top, team in the country, Oregon, didn't even make it past their first game in the college football playoff. There is a need to reseed this college football playoff to better reflect the levels of each team going into the final games of the year. I think SMU Boise State would have been a much better first round game to watch.
But do you agree that both of them deserved a spot at the table?
Yes.
Okay. So I agree with your take then, because a lot of the people that are making that argument are doing
the blatant 1 through 12.
Yeah.
And I don't like that whatsoever.
Because in a sense of trying to find the 12 best teams, that's clearly the path to take. But from a standpoint of rewarding teams for their regular season, I like the model that it is now.
Yeah, I still think that rewarding a team who played in a weaker conference with a bye, it's not the right way to go.
But
don't make me regret bringing this up, you two.
Do you agree? Do you agree that you should allow a spot in the top 12 for a team for winning their conference?
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
for sure.
Right.
But they shouldn't be seated in the top 4 just because they won their league.
My second winner. Oh wait, Brody, you got a winner
I was
or
just
loser?
gonna say Paul Feinbaum, man.
Biggest loser?
Biggest loser.
Yeah, he's eating a lot of crow this day.
Biting his tongue.
Who's your biggest winner?
I mean, I'd say Notre Dame, kind of going back to earlier,
That's
revenue-wise.
That's who my number 2 winner is. I mean, obviously, in a traditional year, a loss to Northern Illinois probably keeps you out of the top 4. They get in. Marcus Freeman and crew have been arguably the hottest team in the country down the stretch, maybe other than Ohio State. I think they're the second best winners.
Yeah,
biggest.
and it's kind of a piggyback, but I think it's Marcus Freeman himself.
Sure.
There were a lot of questions raised after that loss to Northern Illinois. Like, okay, was it time for Notre Dame to start thinking about going a different direction because this maybe wasn't working out? He has put all that to bed now. He's become the guy for Notre Dame, and he's kind of become a beloved figure around college football,
which is not something you say about a Notre Dame head coach
not
too
at
often.
all. So
there's a lot of shade being thrown at his previous employer. Too.
This playoffs has done wonders for his reputation and cachet.
Dan?
And to piggyback off of what John just said, for a winner, Will Howard.
Well, good point.
For everyone who sort of doubted him when he made the transfer to Ohio State and said, are you really getting better? Which, granted,
they weren't.
As we've seen what the other guy did at Syracuse, it's a little bit of a wash. Will Howard definitely cannot say that he is the reason that they are in the college football playoff, but he definitely can't say that they're the reason that they are not.
There was a lot of people in Columbus that after that final play against Oregon in the regular season wanted him benched. So, Dan, you might be right about that. Second biggest loser. You already gave yours. I went with Oregon as well. I mean, Dan Lanning turns down the Alabama job. He's smoking the stogie in his office. They release a video about it. They come out. He sets the world on fire. They join the Big Ten. They win the conference in his first year and put exactly 0 national championships or even national championship appearances in the trophy case after this season. I don't think it's hard to paint this as a positive, even though you won a Big Ten championship if you're Oregon.
My second biggest loser, it's going to sound weird, but hear me out. It's Ashton Junty.
What?
And here's the reason. He had a chance to do something historic. He had a chance to break Barry Sanders' rushing record, right? But the way it all broke out, they virtually had no chance at winning the only game they got to play in the playoffs. If this had been seeded properly and Boise State had been the 6 or 7 seed, they might have gotten to play 2 games and he might have broken that record. Ashton Junty, even though his team was benefiting from the bye, he might have cost himself a shot at history.
Yeah, man, I don't know how many defenses that they would have went up against that he would have had the same level of success that he would have needed to have to hit that record, though.
I mean,
but if he gets two games,
I hear you. I don't know. Like, I don't think they would have beat SMU though. Like to Dan's point, if that would have been like the slated game for the first one, I just don't know. I don't think they would have. I think SMU had more talent. I think he is elite talent. I don't know how much elite talent is around him.
You don't like Maddox Madsen?
I don't know how much elite talent is around him. Is there a team that didn't make the playoff this year that you would say?
See, I almost put Alabama on the loser list.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with this. But with that being said, like, I still think Kalen DeBoer is going to be fine. And I brought that up because the Nick Saban comments earlier, and it feels like that's directly related to what happened.
I'm on record, man. I like Kalen DeBoer. I think he's a good coach. But I've told you so many times before, he is going to suffer the penalty of Nick Saban's success. He's going to win games. They're going to be a good football team, and he's still going to lose his job because Nick Saban was so good that whoever follows him, unless they are an exact replica of Nick Saban,
not too many people are
going to be good enough.
And I think the biggest thing
Kalen DeBoer is going to get fired from Alabama. He's going to go somewhere else and win a bunch of games, and they're going to be really happy with him.
And I'm going to tell you why, though. And it's not necessarily he's the guy that follows the guy or that Nick Saban was so successful. Nick Saban hasn't gone away. You see Nick Saban on TV every single day. So it'll be a constant reminder to Alabama and Auburn fans about what used to be. That is a tough act to follow on its own right. Now the fact that Saban is arguably the third biggest personality on ESPN's televisions now, that's going to make it even more difficult for him to overcome.
Agreed.
My honorable mention for biggest winner, though, it's kind of hard to argue that it's not Colorado. From
the college football
from
playoff?
An overall college football season. From an overall college football season. Because, I mean, Alabama doesn't have anything to really do with the college football playoff either. But just the fact that Deion was able to get to 9 wins and was in the running for a Big 12 championship and even got them relevant in college football out on the field, it's kind of hard to argue. And won a Heisman Trophy as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Deion Sanders in the conference in which Colorado plays its football, my second biggest loser actually was the Big 12. Because as we stated right from the jump this season, we made our brackets. That Big 12 did exactly what we thought it was going to do.
One team.
And cannibalized itself from the very beginning.
Just as we all predicted, Arizona State won.
The teams that we thought were going to be good were not good. The teams that we thought were going to be bad turned out to actually be kind of good. And unfortunately, due to some referees not quite reading the rule book as closely as they possibly could have, that field goal that bounced and then went in.
Oh, yeah.
And also that actually should count.
Yeah, also targeting.
Yeah, that too. Unfortunately, the Big 12 got the kind of raw end of the deal this year. And it'll be interesting to see if maybe there's a little bit of a look-see next season to see who quite possibly is the better team.
If you missed that segment, want to find out who the biggest winners and losers of this year's college football season was, check it out at SoundCloud.com/AfterHours1620. It was brought to you by our friends at AX Plumbing. Home or residential, they can do it all. Check out AXPService.com for all your plumbing, water heater, gas piping, and backflow prevention issues. AX Plumbing is locally owned and operated, and they'll leave your home or business cleaner than they found it. Check out AXPService.com tonight. We give you our Papillion Sanitation Trash Takes tonight to wrap up the show. We come back, 1620 The Zone.
Hey, everybody. John here for Cunningham's Pub and Grill. You know what I love? Cunningham's. Everything about it. The drinks, the food, the atmosphere, the locations, 2 of them, great ones. Old Mill, Blackstone, right where you want to be. It's close to you wherever you are. And the wings. Oh, my goodness, the wings. If you haven't participated in Wing Wednesday with us, you need to do that this week, okay? Get yourself some wings from Cunningham's. Smoked wings with any of the great flavors. My favorite, blueberry sriracha, the Chipotle barbecue, and the 4-alarm. Those are all fantastic choices, but I'm guaranteeing you can't go wrong with any of them. The PB&J, a little sweet, a little spicy, a little smoky. Also, the House Buffalo, different than any buffalo you've ever had. They make it special right there at Cunningham's. Plus, all the other great menu items, great burgers, great wraps, everything on the menu, tremendous, especially on Sundays when they have the limited brunch menu. You can't go wrong. Plus the tap takeovers and great people. Derek, we love him. Comes in with us every other week, talks sports, talks food, talks booze. We like him. Cunningham's, you're going to love it.
Shut it down on a championship night here on 1620 The Zone. Jimmy Allen, John Schreiner, Brody Heidemann, Dan Campinen with you here tonight. Brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Book a free estimate with Kyle and team on your roof, your windows, your gutters, your siding. They can do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. Ohio State leads 14-7, 4:53 to go in the first half in the Natty. We're going to give you our trash takes to wrap up the night. I'm going to go and start us off. I warned you guys before the show started. This was coming. Every 1 through 32, all of them, NFL stadiums need to be indoor stadiums. After what we saw, listen, just because it looks cool on TV does not mean it's good football. It's always bad football when you see a snow game. Mark Andrews probably doesn't drop that pass in warmer weather. Jalen Hurts' knee is probably fine going into the NFC Championship game. And here's why this is going to happen. You've seen the NFL take all the precautions in the world to put rules in place to keep players safe. Mm-hmm. You're seeing numbers drop in attendance in cold weather games. Mm-hmm. Millionaires and billionaires like making money. They're going to do everything they can to protect their assets, and they're going to put a dome over every single building in the NFL.
Okay. You've made a case for why it will happen. You haven't made a case for why it should happen, which is what your trash take was.
Yeah, it should happen because the goal of football is to put the best product on the field and give the best performance you can, right? You want to have the most even playing field. So we have the draft order the way it is to give the best product and the best chance to win a football game. Mm-hmm. And you put the elements. There's a reason you play the Super Bowl in warm weathers or in a dome because you're taking the elements 9 times out of 10 out of the equation. And look back at that raining game in Miami where Devin Hester had the touchdown run at the beginning. That whole game sucked. Anytime that the weather comes into effect, it makes football worse, which declines the product. And that's why it should happen.
Yeah, but bad football can still be fun football.
And what if I told you that the 2 games this weekend that were the worst were the one that was indoors, Commanders and Lions, and the one where the weather played zero factor in the entire game.
You put some respect on the name of the Commanders.
I'm sorry, you thought that was a bad football game?
That was a boring football game.
Commanders were.
Didn't you sit there for 5 minutes and tell us about how good that game was that your wife was interested in?
That was a legitimately boring to watch football game because there was scoring every single time someone went down the field.
Yeah.
Where is the drama?
And if anybody hates it, if people hate anything, it's scoring points.
Where is the Saquon Barkley ripping one off for 70 yards and slamming on his helmet 3 times as he goes to the end zone untouched? In the
he was untouched because the defenders are running like cartoon characters stuck on a banana peel.
I like snow football, so I'm never going to advocate for all.
I don't dislike snow football. I just think it makes the product worse.
All right, Kurt Warner.
Still can be fun though, even though it's worse. It can still be fun.
I can't adjust to the conditions when I have to go play outside because I play in Arizona all the time. So I think it's only fair that I have to only ever play in Arizona.
Did you just make a Kurt Warner reference about indoor stadiums and go with Arizona and not St. Louis, where it was the greatest show on turf?
Yes, because that was when he actually complained about it, was when he was playing with Arizona. But if you want to go back and check that tape.
Trash take.
Lamar Jackson's not going to win a Super Bowl.
Ooh.
I'm not a Lamar Jackson hater. I think Lamar Jackson's really good.
I think that take would suggest otherwise.
I think Lamar Jackson's a fabulous athlete. He affects defenses in a way that we have never seen a quarterback do before. He's the quarterback that was promised when we saw Michael Vick.
Okay.
He's a better version of Michael Vick because he can throw the ball better.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think Michael Vick had the advantage because we hadn't seen anything like him yet. But okay.
But Lamar's a better version of that quarterback. He is the best dual threat quarterback that the NFL has ever seen. A true dual threat. He's the best ever. He's not going to win a Super Bowl. And it may not even be his fault. The quarterback class that he is a part of right now in the AFC, with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, the up-and-coming C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, up-and-coming Bo Nix. This group of quarterbacks is great to a degree that is going to prevent him from ever winning a Super Bowl.
I'm going to make a definitive statement. Bo Nix will never prevent Lamar Jackson from winning a Super Bowl. That'll never happen. Right. Is your trash take that Kurt Warner will be remembered as an Arizona Cardinal?
Sure.
Okay.
It can be. Do you want to make it that and we can just skip me for the night?
What's your trash take?
One, Jalen Williams went on the now aptly labeled young man in the 3, even though Tony, who does it, is still fairly old compared to all the people that he interviews, and actually had a good take. There needs to be 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards in the NBA. One for a big and one for a guard. This is mainly due to the fact... I don't hate
this take.
This is mainly due to the fact that it seems that in recent years, the Defensive Player of the Year has gone to the person in the NBA who basically has the most blocks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which Rudy Gobert, block machine.
Pretty good defender.
Yeah. Wildly good at his job. But Jalen Williams made the argument that, a big has never had to guard a pin down in the way that a guard has to.
Yeah, completely different styles.
And then a guard has never had to work in the paint in the way that a big has to. I love this idea because there is 2 separate kinds of skill sets that you have to play both of those positions and to guard both of them well, especially in nowadays in like the NBA that we have now, where it is you either score 40 feet away from the basket or about an inch and a half away.
And there's no in between. Brody, where did Kurt Warner go to college at?
It's like Upper Iowa?
Northern Iowa.
You
got a trash take or are we rolling out here?
Where did he play in the AFL?
Cooper Flagg will not be the best prospect out of this class after watching Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper dominate Nebraska. It'll be one of the 2 of them.
All right.
I don't know which.
Okay. That was our Brilliant Sanitation Trash Takes
Bailey,
of the night. If you missed any of the show tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours 6020, wherever you may find your podcast. It was brought to you by Aloe Fiber, now empowering communities ever since 2003 by offering sweet and integrated products into services that allow you to focus on running your business. That's right. Aloe Fiber is not just for your home. It can be for your business as well. Cybersecurity, voice solutions, and technology that you don't know is capable of running your business yet because you're not working with Aloe Fiber. Head over to aloebusiness.com to learn more tonight. For Brody Heidemann, Dan Campion, and John Schreiner, I've been Jimmy Allen. Enjoy the national championship game and happy Martin Luther King Day, everybody.